The shuttle docked with a soft thump, and Commander Marcus Chen stepped onto Kepler-7 station for the first time. The air smelled strange, like metal and alien spices mixed together. Thousands of creatures from dozens of worlds walked past him. Some had too many legs. Some had no legs at all. Marcus had trained for this moment his whole life, but nothing could prepare a human for the reality of a galactic trade hub. A small robot floated toward him and spoke in a mechanical voice. "Commander Chen, welcome to Kepler-7. You are the fourth human diplomatic attaché assigned to this station in 2 years. Please follow me to your quarters. Fourth in 2 years." Marcus had read the files. His 3 predecessors had all requested immediate transfers. None of them would say why. They just left, pale and shaking, refusing to speak about their time here. His quarters were small but comfortable. Marcus barely had time to set down his bag before the door chimed. He opened it to find a creature that looked like a giant insect standing in the hallway. Its shell was green and shiny, and its mandibles clicked rapidly as it spoke. "You are the new human," the Chitrani said. "We must warn you." "Warn me about what?" The Chitrani leaned closer. Its compound eyes reflected Marcus's face 100 times. "The Volanthi. They asked for you specifically. They have never done this before. Never in 10,000 years have they invited an outsider into their presence." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "The Volanthi Dominion? The warrior women?" "Yes." The Chitrani's mandibles clicked faster, a sign of extreme nervousness. "They consumed their males millennia ago. Ate them, every single one. Now they look at other species the same way. You are meat to them, human. Nothing more." Before Marcus could respond, the Chitrani turned and scurried away down the corridor. Over the next 3 days, Marcus received similar warnings from almost every species on the station. A gelatinous creature called a Morvax cornered him in the cafeteria. Its body rippled with what Marcus had learned to recognize as fear. "We have seen the Volanthi tear through battle cruisers with their bare hands," it said, its voice bubbling up from somewhere inside its transparent body. "Their smallest warriors stand 9 feet tall. They have 4 arms, each one strong enough to crush steel. Their skin is like black stone. They feel no pain. They know no mercy." "Then, why would they invite me for a diplomatic meeting?" Marcus asked. Thought the Morvax quivered. "They do not have meetings. They have feedings." On his 4th day, the station security chief requested a private meeting. Chief Torvin was a massive creature covered in gray scales, with scars running across his face and arms. He had fought in a dozen wars and feared nothing in the galaxy. Nothing except, apparently, the Volanthi. "I have killed many enemies," Torvin said, his voice low and rough. "I have faced death more times than I can count. But I would never go near a Volanthi ship." He grabbed Marcus by the shoulders, his clawed hands surprisingly gentle. "The High Matriarch asked for a human. Specifically a human. Do you understand what this means?" "No," Marcus admitted. "Neither do we. That is what terrifies us. The Volanthi have ignored humanity for 50 years. They called you soft, weak, unworthy of attention. Now suddenly they want to meet with you. Something has changed, human. Something has made them hungry." Torvin released him and stepped back. "She will devour you whole. They always do." That night, Marcus could not sleep. He lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling, thinking about everything he had heard. The Volanthi Dominion had ruled their section of the galaxy for 10,000 years. No species had ever successfully challenged them. Their warriors were legend. Their matriarchs were myth, and they wanted to meet him. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. A small drone had entered his quarters and was hovering near his desk, carrying something that glowed with soft purple light. Marcus approached carefully. The drone deposited its cargo and flew away. Left behind was a crystal, perfectly clear, with words floating inside it like trapped fireflies. "Commander Marcus Chen of Earth," the crystal said in a voice like singing bells. "High Matriarch Thessaly Vio of the Volanthi Dominion extends an invitation. You are requested for tea aboard the flagship Crimson Dawn. Tomorrow, sunset by station time. Come alone." The crystal went dark. Marcus sat down heavily on his bed. Tea, the most feared warriors in the galaxy, wanted to have tea with him. It would have been funny if everyone on the station had not spent the last 3 days telling him he was about to die. He thought about his training. He thought about Earth, so far away. He thought about the 3 diplomats who came before him, who ran away from whatever they found here. Marcus Chen had never run from anything in his life. The next evening, he walked to the docking bay where a Volanthi shuttle waited. The entire station seemed to be watching. Creatures of every species lined the corridors, staring at him in silence. Some looked sad. Some looked fascinated. Most looked like they were watching a man walk to his execution. Chief Torvin stood at the airlock entrance. He said nothing. He simply placed one clawed hand over his heart, a gesture of respect among his people. A final farewell. Marcus nodded and stepped into the shuttle. Inside, 2 Volanthi warriors waited. They were exactly as the stories described. 9 feet tall, 4 arms, skin like polished black glass. Their eyes were amber, bright and intelligent, and they watched Marcus with an intensity that made his heart beat faster. Neither spoke. They simply gestured toward a seat. Marcus sat down. The shuttle detached from the station and began moving toward the largest ship he had ever seen. The Crimson Dawn hung in space like a predator waiting to strike. It was beautiful and terrifying, all sharp angles and flowing curves, built for both elegance and destruction. As the shuttle approached, Marcus realized something strange. He was not afraid. He should have been. Everything he had heard said he should be trembling with terror. Instead, he felt curious. The Volanthi had ignored humanity for 50 years. They thought humans were soft and weak. But something had changed their minds. Something had made them reach out across the void and ask for a meeting. Marcus Chen intended to find out what. The shuttle entered the Crimson Dawn, and the airlock sealed behind him with a sound like a closing tomb. There was no turning back now. Whatever waited for him inside, he would face it standing straight. The corridors of the Crimson Dawn were not what Marcus expected. He had imagined dark halls stained with blood, walls decorated with bones, the smell of death everywhere. Instead, he found himself walking through passages of polished white stone, lit by soft golden light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The 2 Volanthi warriors walked beside him, their 4 arms swinging gently with each step. They still had not spoken. Marcus tried to match their pace, but their legs were twice as long as his, and he had to take 2 steps for every one of theirs. They passed through a great hall lined with glass cases. Inside each case was a weapon. Thousands of weapons from hundreds of species, arranged with obvious care. Marcus recognized some of them. A Chitrani plasma lance, a Morvax acid sprayer, human rifles from Earth's early space exploration days. "Trophies?" he asked. One of the warriors glanced down at him. "History," she said. Her voice was deep and smooth. "Every species that challenged us. Every battle we won. We preserve them so we never forget. Never forget what? The cost of war." They continued walking. The corridor opened into a chamber that took Marcus's breath away. It was a garden, vast and beautiful, filled with plants from 100 different worlds. Flowers glowed with inner light. Trees twisted toward a ceiling that showed a perfect view of the stars outside. Water flowed somewhere nearby, A gentle sound that calmed his racing heart. At the center of the garden stood a simple table with 2 chairs. One chair was built for a volante. The other was human-sized. They had prepared for him. A figure rose from the larger chair, and Marcus found himself looking at the most impressive being he had ever seen. High Matriarch Thessaly Var was old. He could see it in the fine lines around her amber eyes, in the way she moved with careful precision. But age had not diminished her. If anything, it had made her more powerful, more present. She filled the garden with her existence. "Commander Chun," she said. Her voice was softer than he expected, almost gentle. "Thank you for accepting my invitation. Please, sit." Marcus sat. The chair was comfortable, designed for a human body. Someone had studied them carefully. Thessaly Viol lowered herself into her own chair. Her forearms moved with fluid grace as she reached for a teapot on the table. The pot was made of delicate crystal, filled with amber liquid that steamed gently. "I hope you do not mind," she said. "I have attempted to prepare tea in the human fashion. Your ceremony is fascinating to us." She poured 2 cups with precise movements. Marcus watched in amazement as this ancient warrior, this legendary killer, performed a tea ceremony that would have impressed his grandmother back on Earth. "You studied our culture," he said. "We have studied humanity for 50 years. Thessaly Vior pushed a cup toward him. "Please, drink." Marcus lifted the cup to his lips. The tea was good. Better than good. It tasted like home, like Earth, like everything he missed about his own world. "Why?" he asked. "Everyone on that station told me your people think humans are weak, soft, beneath your attention. Why study us?" Thessaly Var smiled. It was strange to see such an expression on a face so alien, but somehow it worked. "That is what we told them." "It was not the truth." "Then what is the truth?" The matriarch set down her cup and leaned forward. Her amber eyes locked onto his, and Marcus felt as if she was looking directly into his soul. "When we first observed humanity," she said, "we saw a species that seemed unremarkable. Short lives, fragile bodies, no natural weapons. We almost dismissed you entirely. What changed your mind?" "We watched more closely." Thessaly Var's voice grew soft with something that might have been wonder. "We saw humans drink poison for pleasure. Alcohol, caffeine, capsaicin, substances that would kill other species. And you consumed them for fun." Marcus thought about his morning coffee. "I suppose we do. We saw humans break their own bones for sport. Your athletes, your warriors, they damaged themselves deliberately to become stronger. We saw humans bond with apex predators. You take wolves into your homes. You swim with sharks. You keep creatures that could kill you as companions, and you love them." "Pets," Marcus said. "We call them pets. We call it madness." But there was no judgment in the matriarch's voice. Only respect. "We watched humans strap explosives to their bodies and launch themselves into the sky. You'd call it celebration. We watched humans run toward danger when every instinct should tell them to run away. You're firefighters. You're soldiers. You're doctors who treat plague victims." She leaned back in her chair. "You are not weak, Commander Chen. You are not soft. You are the strangest predators we have ever encountered. You just do not look like predators. And that, perhaps, is the most dangerous thing about you." Marcus was silent for a long moment. He had never thought about humanity this way. To him, these were just normal things. Things humans did. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked finally. Thessaly Vier's expression changed. The wonder faded, replaced by something heavier. Something that looked almost like grief. "Because we are dying," she said simply. The words hung in the air between them. "A genetic plague," the matriarch continued. It appeared 300 years ago. Slowly, generation by generation, fewer of our children are born. Our scientists have tried everything. Nothing works. In 3 more generations, perhaps 4, the Volanti will be extinct. Marcus felt his chest tighten. I'm sorry. We searched the galaxy for a solution. We examined every species, looking for compatible genetics, for something that could save us. HFY looked at him with those ancient amber eyes. Only one species has the adaptive DNA we need. Only one species has the psychological strength to stand beside us as equals. Humans, Marcus whispered. Humans. The garden was silent, except for the gentle flow of water. Marcus's mind raced through the implications of what she was saying. You want. He started, then stopped, unsure how to continue. We want an alliance, HFY said. True partnership. Integration between our peoples. Not conquest. Not domination. We have tried those things for 10,000 years. They brought us power, but they did not bring us survival. She reached across the table with one of her 4 hands. Her black fingers so different from his own. Stopped just short of touching him. We are not asking you to be our prey. Commander Chun, we are asking if humanity would consider becoming our partners. Marcus looked at her hand. He thought about everything he had been told. The warnings, the fear, the certainty that he was walking to his death, and he thought about the tea, the careful ceremony, the garden full of beauty, the grief in an ancient warrior's eyes. He reached out and took her hand. I will need to speak with my people, he said. But I will tell them what you told me. I will tell them the truth. HFY's fingers closed gently around his. That is all we ask. Marcus returned to Kepler-7 station alive and unharmed. This alone was enough to cause panic. The Shitrani ambassador rushed to meet him at the airlock, mandibles clicking so fast they became a blur. You survived? You actually survived? What did they do to you? What did they want? They want peace, Marcus said simply. They want an alliance with humanity. The clicking stopped. The Chitrani stared at him with all 100 facets of its compound eyes, and then it screamed. The sound was high and terrible, a noise of pure terror that echoed through the docking bay. Within hours, the entire station knew. Within days, the entire galaxy knew. The Volanti Dominion, the most feared warriors in known space, wanted to join with humanity. Intermarriage, integration, a merger of 2 species into something new. The reaction was immediate and violent. The Shitrani Collective severed all trade relations with Earth. Their ambassador delivered a formal statement. If humanity joins with the Volanti, the Chitrani will consider this an act of war against all peaceful species. We will not allow such a union to exist. The Morvax coalition began building warships. Their factories worked day and night, producing weapons and armor. The Volanti alone were dangerous enough, their leaders announced. Combined with human adaptability and numbers, they would be unstoppable. We must strike before this alliance forms. 3 smaller empires created a pact called the Coalition of Concerned Species. Their only purpose was to contain the human Volanti threat before it could grow. Marcus was recalled to Earth to address the Colonial Senate. The chamber was full when he arrived, hundreds of senators from colonies across human space, all arguing and shouting and demanding answers. Admiral Yuki Tanaka, head of the Defense Council, called for silence. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, and when she spoke, people listened. Commander Chun, she said, you have spent time with the Volanti. You have spoken with their High Matriarch. Tell us what you learned. Marcus stood and faced the Senate. He told them everything. The tea ceremony, the garden, the dying species. the respect the Volanti had developed for humanity over 50 years of watching. When he finished, the chamber erupted. "This is our chance," shouted a senator from Mars colony. "Volanti technology combined with human numbers would make us the dominant power in the galaxy." "This is cultural suicide," responded Senator Okonkwo from the African Union. "Would we even remain human after merging with these aliens? We would lose everything that makes us who we are." "They are dying," called another voice. "We cannot let an entire species disappear when we have the power to help." "And what if they're lying?" demanded a senator from Europa. "What if this is just another Volanti trick? A way to absorb us from within?" The arguments continued for hours. Marcus watched it all, exhausted and overwhelmed. He had been a soldier, a diplomat, a commander. He had never expected to become the center of a galactic controversy. Late that night, after the Senate had adjourned without reaching any decision, Marcus received a private communication. It was from HFY War. "I hope I am not disturbing you," the matriarch's voice said through the speaker. The transmission was audio only, but Marcus could picture her face clearly. "I understand your leaders are debating our proposal." "Debating is a gentle word for it," Marcus replied. "Half of them want to accept immediately. The other half think you're planning to destroy us." There was a pause. "Would it help if I shared something with you? Something personal?" "It might." A new file appeared on his screen. Music. Marcus played it and heard voices singing in a language he did not understand. The melody was strange and beautiful, full of harmonies that human voices could never produce. "This is a Volanti lullaby," HFY War explained. "Mothers sing it to their children before sleep. It tells the story of a warrior who was afraid of the dark. She thought monsters lived in the shadows. But one night, she walked into the darkness anyway, and she found that the monsters were just other children, also afraid, also alone. They became friends." Marcus listened until the song ended. "I wanted you to know that we are not just warriors," the matriarch said. "We have art, poetry, love. We are afraid sometimes. We hope sometimes. We are not so different from you." Over the following weeks, Marcus became the unofficial bridge between species. He received daily messages from HFY War, each one revealing something new about Volanti culture, their philosophy of honor, their respect for worthy opponents, their deep grief over the plague that was killing their children. He also received death threats. Lots of them thought an assassin from the Chitrani collective tried to poison his food. Security stopped them just in time. A Morvax agent attempted to sabotage his shuttle. The bomb was discovered before launch. Species that had never shown interest in humanity before now wanted Marcus Chun dead, because he represented something that terrified them: change. "You should have bodyguards," Admiral Tanaka told him during one of their meetings. "Full security detail at all times." "I have something better," Marcus said. He showed her a small crystal that hung around his neck. "A gift from HFY War. If I'm ever in danger, I activate this, and the nearest Volanti ship will come for me." The Admiral stared at the crystal. "They gave you their protection?" "They gave me their trust." She was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Perhaps there is something to this alliance after all." But before any decision could be made, the galaxy made the choice for them. A message arrived at Kepler-7 station. The Morvax coalition had assembled a fleet. 300 warships, the largest armada in their history. They were jumping to Kepler-7 in 12 hours. Their ultimatum was simple: Earth must reject the Volanti alliance, or face annihilation. Marcus was in his quarters when his communication device activated. HFY War's voice filled the room, calm and steady. "Commander Chun, we have received the Morvax transmission. The Crimson Dawn is powering its engines. We will not abandon you to these creatures who think war is an answer to their fear. They have 300 ships, Marcus said. You have one. One Volanti ship has always been enough. There was no pride in her voice, just simple truth. Will you join us, Marcus-chan? Will you take tea with us one more time? Marcus looked out his window. In the distance, he could see the crimson dawn moving into position, a single point of crimson light against the endless darkness. He picked up his jacket and headed for the shuttle bay. The Morvax fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 300 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons already glowing with stored energy. They hung in the darkness like a swarm of angry metal insects, each one bristling with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Marcus watched from the observation deck of the Crimson Dawn. Beside him stood Thessaly Vyre, her amber eyes fixed on the enemy armada. She showed no fear, no concern. She simply studied the fleet as if counting them for a later reference. There are a lot of them, Marcus said quietly. There are always a lot of them, the matriarch replied. That is how the galaxy works. The weak gather in numbers because they fear to stand alone. A communication signal cut through the silence. The Morvax commander's voice filled the ship, translated into standard language. The Volanti vessel. You are outnumbered 300 to 1. Surrender the human Marcus-chan and withdraw from this sector, or we will destroy you. Thessaly Vyre did not respond immediately. She walked slowly to the command chair at the center of the bridge, her forearms clasped behind her back. Every Volanti warrior on the bridge watched her with absolute devotion. Open a channel, she said. Broadcast to all ships. Channel open, matriarch. Morvax fleet, Thessaly Vyre said. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. The human is under our protection. He has shared our table. He has drunk our tea. In the eyes of the Volanti, this makes him family. And the Volanti do not abandon family. She paused, letting her words sink in. Withdraw now, and you may live. Stay and learn why the galaxy fears us. The Morvax commander laughed. The sound was wet and bubbling, full of contempt. One ship against 300? The Volanti have finally gone mad. All vessels, open fire. 300 ships fired at once. The space around the Crimson Dawn filled with beams of energy and missiles and projectiles of every kind. The attack would have destroyed any normal vessel 1,000 times over. The Crimson Dawn was not a normal vessel. It moved. That was the only word Marcus could find. It did not fly or dodge or evade. It moved, flowing through the storm of weapons like water flowing around stones. Energy beams passed within meters of the hull and hit nothing. Missiles detonated in empty space where the ship had been a moment before. The Volanti pilot's 4 hands danced across the controls, and the massive warship responded like a living thing. Return fire, Thessaly Vyre said. The Crimson Dawn's weapons activated. They were nothing like human weapons. No beams, no missiles. Instead, streams of something black and glittering poured from the ship's cannons, spreading through space like ink in water. When this substance touched a Morvax vessel, it did not explode. It consumed. Within seconds, the first enemy ship simply ceased to exist, dissolved into floating particles of dust. Launch! Boarding parties, the matriarch commanded. Airlocks opened along the length of the Crimson Dawn. Volanti warriors empowered. Armor threw themselves into the void, using nothing but small thrusters to propel themselves toward enemy ships. They carried no guns, only blades and claws and their own terrible strength. Marcus watched in amazement as a single Volanti warrior landed on the hull of a Morvax cruiser. Her forearms found handholds in the metal, and she began to tear her way inside, ripping through armored plating like it was paper. Within minutes, she had reached the bridge. Within minutes after that, The ship's weapons went dark all across the battlefield. The same scene repeated. Volante warriors boarding enemy vessels, cutting through defenders, disabling weapon systems. The Morvacs had prepared for a space battle. They had not prepared for hand-to-hand combat against enemies who could punch through steel. But 300 ships was too many. Even for the Volante, the Crimson Dawn shuddered as an energy beam finally found its mark. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Damage reports flooded the bridge, a dozen critical systems failing at once. Hull breach on deck 7 through 12, a Volante officer announced. Engine power down to 60%. Maintain attack pattern, Thessaleva ordered. Blood ran down her arm from a wound she had received from a falling beam, but she did not seem to notice. More hits followed. The Crimson Dawn was the greatest warship in the galaxy, but it was being worn down by sheer numbers. The Volante warriors fell one by one, overwhelmed by Morvac's defenders. The black dissolution weapons began to run low on ammunition. "Matriarch," the pilot said, "we cannot sustain this much longer." Thessalivar's jaw tightened. For the first time since the battle began, Marcus saw doubt in her eyes. Not for herself, for her people. For the warriors dying around her. Then a new signal cut through the chaos. A human voice, sharp and commanding. "This is Admiral Yuki Tanaka of Earth's First Fleet. Volante vessel Crimson Dawn. We are coming to assist. Hold your position." Marcus spun toward the viewport. Light flashed across space as ships dropped out of hyperspace. Human ships. Dozens of them. The First Fleet had arrived. They were ugly compared to Volante elegance, blocky, industrial, built for function, not beauty. But their weapons worked just fine. Human missiles streaked across the battlefield, slamming into Morvac's vessels with devastating force. Human energy cannons carved lines of destruction through enemy formations. Human pilots flew with wild aggression, taking risks that no other species would consider. "All ships, this is Admiral Tanaka," the broadcast continued. "The Volante are our allies. Anyone who threatens them threatens Earth. Today, we stand together." The tide of battle turned. Morvac ships began to retreat, their formation breaking apart as human and Volante forces pressed the attack. The 300 ships became 200, then 100. Then a handful of survivors fleeing into hyperspace. The Morvac's commander's ship was the last to go. Before he jumped away, his voice crackled one final time over the communications channel. "This is not over. The galaxy will not allow this alliance to exist." Then he was gone and the battle was finished. Marcus found Devour in the garden chamber. The beautiful room had been damaged by the fighting. Flowers lay scattered across the floor. The crystal ceiling had cracked in places. Several Volante warriors lay among the plants, wounded or dead, being tended by their sisters. The matriarch herself sat against a broken tree, her wounds being treated by a young warrior. When she saw Marcus approach, she smiled. "You came back," she said. "You invited me." Marcus knelt beside her. And humans always respond to invitations, especially when our friends need help. Friends. Thessaleva tasted the word like it was something new. "Is that what we are now?" Marcus looked around the damaged garden. He looked at the warriors who had fought and died to protect him. He looked at the ancient matriarch who had risked everything on the chance that two species might find common ground. "I think we're more than that," he said. "I think we're family." Thessaleva reached out with one of her 4 hands and gripped his shoulder. Her touch was gentle, despite her tremendous strength. "Then let us build something worthy of that name," she said. Outside, human and Volante ships floated side by side among the wreckage of their enemies. Medical shuttles moved between them, carrying wounded of both species. For the first time in galactic history, humans and Volante were working together not as enemies, not as strangers, but as partners. The battle was over, but something much greater had just begun. 5 years passed like a dream. Marcus Chun walked through the streets of New Thessaly, the first joint colony world established by the human Volanti Compact. The morning sun was warm on his face, and the air smelled of flowers from 2 different worlds, blooming side by side. The city around him was like nothing that had existed before. Buildings combined human architecture with Volanti design, creating structures that were both practical and beautiful. Wide streets allowed for the longer stride of Volanti citizens, while smaller paths branched off for humans who preferred their own pace. Everywhere he looked, the 2 species moved together in harmony. A group of children ran past him, laughing and shouting. Some were human, some were Volanti, and some were something new entirely. Hybrid children born from the union of both species, with features that blended the best of both worlds. They had human warmth and Volanti strength, human creativity and Volanti discipline. They were the future. Marcus paused at a small cafe and ordered tea. The owner was a Volanti woman who had learned human customs, and she prepared his drink with the same care. Thessaly had shown him 5 years ago on the Crimson Dawn. He sat outside and watched the city come to life. So much had changed since the Battle of Kepler-7. The human Volanti Compact had grown into the most powerful alliance in known space. But unlike previous powers, they did not rule through fear. They ruled through example. Species that had once trembled at the mention of the Volanti now sought their protection. Worlds that had wanted humanity destroyed now requested membership in the Compact. The Morvax coalition had dissolved within a year of the battle. Their leaders had fled. Their people had chosen peace over continued conflict. Some of them now lived on New Thessaly, working alongside the species they had once tried to destroy. Even the Chitrani had come around eventually. When a plague threatened their homeworld, it was human Volanti medical teams that arrived to help. The insects who had clicked with fear at the mention of Marcus Chun's name now clicked with gratitude. But the greatest change was the one Marcus had witnessed personally. The genetic plague that had threatened to destroy the Volanti was defeated. Human scientists and Volanti researchers had worked together for 3 years, combining their knowledge in ways neither could have achieved alone. Human adaptive DNA proved to be exactly what the Volanti needed. A treatment was developed, then a cure. For the first time in 300 years, Volanti birth rates had begun to rise. The species that had resigned itself to extinction now had hope. A familiar figure appeared at the edge of the cafe. Thessaly moved through the crowd with grace, her forearms folded behind her back, her amber eyes taking in everything around her. The years had been kind to her. The grief that Marcus had seen in her face during their first meeting was gone, replaced by something warmer. She sat down across from him without speaking. A cup of tea appeared before her instantly. The cafe owner honored to serve the High Matriarch. For a long moment, they simply sat together, watching the city they had helped build. "I received a communication this morning," Thessaly said finally. "From the Kitherans." Marcus raised an eyebrow. The Kitherans were a reclusive species from the far edge of the galaxy. No one had heard from them in centuries. What did they want? "They have been watching us, watching what we have built here." The matriarch lifted her cup and inhaled the steam. "They want to know if the stories are true. If there really exists an alliance where the different are not destroyed, where the weak are not consumed." "And what did you tell them?" "I told them they were welcome to see for themselves." Thessaly smiled, showing her sharp teeth in the Volanti expression of joy. "I told them they were invited for tea." Marcus laughed. It was a sound he made much more often these days. A small girl ran up to their table. She was perhaps 5 years old, with skin that held a hint of Volanti darkness and eyes that were almost human. Her 4 arms were still small, still learning their strength. She grabbed Marcus's hand with 2 of them and tugged. "Father, the gardens are open. Mother said you promised to take me." Marcus smiled down at his daughter. His and Thessaly Vior's daughter. The first child born to a human and a Volanthe, and the proof that their 2 species were not just allies, but truly one people. "I did promise," he said. He stood and offered his arm to Thessaly Vior. "Shall we?" The ambassador consort should not be seen breaking his word. The matriarch rose with fluid grace. She took his arm with 2 of her hands and their daughter's hand with a 3rd. Together, the 3 of them walked into the heart of New Thessaly. The city spread around them, full of life and hope and possibility. Humans and Volanthe worked together, learned together, loved together. The old fear was fading with each passing year, replaced by something stronger. On a balcony overlooking the main square, a group of Volanthe warriors trained with human soldiers, teaching each other techniques from their different traditions. In a school nearby, children of both species learned history that included both of their peoples. At a hospital, doctors combined human medicine with Volanthe science to heal patients that neither could have saved alone. "They said you would devour me," Marcus said softly, watching a Volanthe grandmother teach a human child to dance. Thessaly Vior laughed, a deep and musical sound. "We did devour you, but we found that humans are not meant to be consumed. You are meant to be kept, cherished. You make us more than we were alone." Their daughter tugged at them impatiently. Eager to see the gardens dot as they walked, Marcus thought about everything that had led to this moment. The warnings he had ignored. The tea ceremony that had changed everything. The battle that had forged 2 species into one. The years of work that had followed, building something that the galaxy had never seen before. Behind them, the sun rose higher over New Thessaly. The city's towers caught the light and seemed to glow. Somewhere, a child was laughing. Somewhere, new friends were being made. Somewhere, fear was giving way to understanding. A new message arrived on Marcus's communicator. The Kithrin delegation would arrive in 3 days. They were nervous, uncertain, afraid of what they might find. Marcus understood. He had felt the same way once, walking onto the crimson dawn with nothing but the warnings of a frightened station ringing in his ears. He typed a response and sent it across the stars. "Welcome to New Thessaly. The tea will be ready when you arrive." Far across the galaxy, species that had known only fear began to wonder if perhaps there was another way. News of the compact spread from world to world, telling stories of humans and Volanthe living in peace. The message was simple. Strength did not have to mean destruction. Power did not have to mean cruelty. The different could become partners instead of prey. And in a garden on New Thessaly, surrounded by flowers from 100 worlds, a human and a Volanthe warrior raised their cups to the future while their daughter played at their feet. They did not know what tomorrow would bring. They did not know what challenges waited in the years ahead, but they knew this. They would face them together, and that was enough.